and gentlemen, it is now our distinct privilege to invite Duli yang Teramat Mulia Tengku Amir Shah Ibni Sultan Sharafuddin Idris Shah Alhaj, Raja Muda Selangor, to deliver the royal address.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here with you today at the inaugural Urban Biodiversity Conference 2025. I commend Sime Darby Property for initiating this dialogue, and more importantly, for recognizing that biodiversity is not a peripheral conversation, but a central one. Today we stand at the intersection of development and responsibility. We gather not merely as guests, but as stewards of the future, bound by a shared understanding that the health of our ecosystem is inseparable from the health of our cities, our economy, and our society. The theme for today's conference, Coexistence, Shared Environments for Balance and Resilience, could not come more timely. It challenges us to see nature not as something to be sidelined by progress, but as something that must live alongside it, in our cities, in our policies, and in our thinking. For too long, the narrative has been one of nature versus development, of growth at the expense of green, but that narrative is evolving, and it must. Because biodiversity, especially in urban settings, is not an indulgence. It is infrastructure. It is a life support. The choices we make today will define not just the landscape we inhabit, but the kind of nation we become. Understanding biodiversity through both my academic journey in ecology and environmental biology, as well as lived observations, has shaped the way I see cities. Not just as human habitats, but as living systems with resilience, equity, and biodiversity are deeply intertwined. Urban biodiversity is not about returning cities to the forests, but about intelligently designing our built environment to work in tandem with natural systems, not in opposition of them. The air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water that sustains us all depend on functioning ecological systems, even in the densest of urban areas. Trees reduce temperatures, wetlands absorb floods, biodiverse green space reduce stress, support public health, and improve productivity. These are not hypothetical benefits. They are evidence-based solutions with long-term impact. As Selangor continues to urbanize, and as Malaysia's cities expand, we must ask ourselves, can we pursue growth without degrading the very systems that make life possible? I believe we can, but it will require a fundamental shift in how we think, build, and lead. This is the real return on investment. Selangor, as Malaysia's most urbanized state, has a responsibility to lead by example. We are blessed with diverse ecosystems, from mangroves and wetlands to forests and rivers, all woven into the fabric of our rapidly developing cities. But this ecological legacy is fragile, and our role in it, not merely to preserve it, but to actively integrate into our future. Around the world, we are seeing how cities are reimagining themselves. Singapore's biophilic city model, Vancouver's natural stormwater infrastructure. These are not token gestures. They are strategic investments in livability and resilience. Here in Malaysia, our developers architects, planners, and investors have a unique opportunity to lead in a way that is both bold and pragmatic, to embed biodiversity into the blueprint of every township, to restore degraded landscape and reintroduce ecological corridors, and to embrace green infrastructure not as an aesthetic feature, but as an operational necessity. And above all, to see cities not as machines to be optimized, but as ecosystems to be nurtured. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe the true test of leadership lies not in what we build today, but in what endures tomorrow. That is why the conversation around biodiversity must be anchored in the future and in those who will inherit it, our youth. When I established the Selangor youth community, it was with the conviction that young people are not just participants of nation building, they are the future custodians. They will be the future CEOs, policymakers, planners, and citizens responsible for carrying forward the consequences of the decisions we make in this room. That is why we must empower them now, not just with inspiration, but with opportunity, with access and trust. But empowerment must go further. We must give youth a voice in climate and urban planning. We must involve them in the environmental innovation. And we must make space for not just to learn, but to lead. If we are truly integrate nature into our cities, we must do so not through policies and framework, but through people. Through youth who are ready to lead, through communities who care deeply for the places that call home. Today, I speak not only as someone entrusted with responsibility for the state of Selangor, but as someone deeply committed to the well-being of this nation, environmentally, socially, and economically. What we need now is not another checklist, but a paradigm shift. Let us move from rhetoric to responsibility, from short-term compliance to long-term conviction. Let us ask not what we can extract from the land, but how we can enrich it for generations to come. Not only what we can build, but who we are building for and what legacy we choose to leave. This is our chance to build cities that don't just shelter people, but cities that heal them, that nourish biodiversity, that inspire future generations. Let us think beyond 5-year plans and instead ask ourselves what kind of a world we want to leave for those in 2050. Distinguished guests, let me end with this. Every city has a memory of what it once was and a vision for what it can be. Let the cities of Malaysia be remembered not for what they have lost, but for what they have reclaimed. Not for what they took from the land, but what they have gave back. May this conference be more than the gathering of great minds. Let it be a catalyst for collaboration, action, and a renewed commitment to balance and resilience. Nature does not need our permission to heal, but it needs our partnership to thrive. Let us, as leaders, change makers, and citizens rise to this moment with purpose, humility, and a deep love for the place we call home. Thank you. Wabila taufiq wal hidayah. Wa assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.